Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you from stormy North Carolina, where the bottom's getting ready to drop out at any minute. I want to come to you with a quick PSA, a public service announcement about some things that are hitting the trail right now, and this is applicable to section hikers, through hikers, and anybody that's doing an overnighter on the trail. It's important you need to listen up. Find out what that is, stick around. Alright, so what kind of things am I talking about that section hikers and through hikers, and particularly through hikers, need to know about right now? I'm talking about the norovirus. That's right, folks. It looks like that we are in the middle of an outbreak of the norovirus, and when that outbreak starts, it takes off exponentially and gets ramped up. So let's talk a little bit about what the norovirus is. It's a gastrointestinal virus, and it causes inflammation of the stomach and intestines. So it usually lasts anywhere from 1 to 3 days, and there's no treatment for it other than just time and taking in lots of fluids. So that don't sound real cool, does it? Well, it gets worse. The symptoms are diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, stomach pain, fever, headaches, body aches, lethargy, and dehydration. And dehydration is something that hikers fight constantly anyway, because most people hike dehydrated because it's too much trouble to stop and get water out of the creek, or they're just not swagging enough because it's cool weather or something like that. But most hikers hike dehydrated, and that's where it can really take its toll. So virus is very contagious. It's spread from either contaminated food, water sources, surfaces, people, shelters, trail magic, hiker feeds, hostels, anywhere where a lot of people are congregating. It spreads very quickly through a close population, and the actual virus itself on a surface is active for up to 48 hours after it's introduced to that surface. So think about a shelter, the cooking table at a shelter, or the sleeping area at a shelter, or the seats at a shelter, or at a hostel. Place at a hostel, the community area at a hostel. So think about those places. People with norovirus, they can shed billions of norovirus particles, and it only takes like a few hundred virus particles to make people sick. You can get the norovirus many times over in your lifetime, and many times or several times in a hike, because there are different strains of the norovirus. So I'm tracking the norovirus all the way from the Georgia-North Carolina border, all the way through Franklin, all the way up to Highway 19E, which is the northern portion of the Roan Mountain Highlands in Tennessee. So I've spoken to actual hikers on the trail. I have, of course, been tracking videos, but I've actually gotten messages from hikers on the trail. I've actually spoken on the phone to hostel owners in places like Hot Springs and Roan Mountain and Damascus, and it has not progressed up into Damascus yet. And as a matter of fact, I had a hostel owner there tell me that typically it doesn't come that far. I can't confirm that or not, but it doesn't come that far. It usually kind of stays, and usually the outbreak is somewhere around Erwin, Tennessee. Some of the folks I've been talking to are telling me that the Erwin, Tennessee motels, hiker motels there, are full of sick hikers. I'm also told that it's pretty prevalent right now in the Smokies, and of course we know that's because we got the bubble moving through, and everybody's congregating in around all those shelters because they have to. You're required by the park regulations to only stay at the shelter. So when you get a shelter that's built for 12 or 20, and you got it's built for 12 and you got 20 people there, plus another 20 to 30 in tents around the immediate area, and everybody kind of congregates around the shelter to chat and cook their food and so on and so forth. Well, that's just a ripe area for the norovirus. Also, the weather's getting a lot warmer now, and so the cold weather doesn't prevent it from, normally the cold weather would keep it from spreading, or would kill it on surfaces and stuff. Certainly not allow it to incubate as much as the warm weather does. Plus we've got so many people in the same general vicinity all together. So It typically does, when it breaks out, it does follow the hiker bubble. My research, and I've been able to find out how far north it goes. As I said, the one hostel owner there in Damascus told me it typically doesn't get to Damascus. But my sources are actually sick through hikers or hostel owners. So how is it contracted? Well, having direct contact with an infected person, consuming contaminated food or water, touching contaminated surfaces, and then putting your unwashed hands in your mouth. So think again, shelter surfaces, any place in the shelter. Hawk Maines, right now, he's doing his yo-yo, and of course he's a veteran thru hiker, and he says his advice is don't share any food. Don't put your hands in somebody else's gorp bag. Don't put your hands in somebody else's bag. Just don't share any food. Don't lick food off your fingers. Keep your fingers out of your mouth. Clean yourself as often as possible. Don't even sign trail log books, he says. And he says that, because everybody's touching the trail logs. And he also says he wouldn't dare touch the pen that's in those trail logs. He tries not to stay in dirty hostels. Now, I don't know the definition of a dirty hostel. Hostels are not regulated. So, you just hope that they're keeping it clean. A lot of good hostels out there do that. But there's no rating system other than what other hikers rate it. So, there's no regulation that that goes around and inspects hostels and stuff like that. So you need to assume that they're all contaminated in some way, shape, or form. I have heard of a hostel along the trail that had shut down for a couple days to decontaminate, and I have heard of another hostel right now that is on the trail that has had an outbreak. So I'm not going to name those names because that is third-hand information. Certainly not going to, I don't have any empirical data, don't have any first-hand knowledge of that, but I have heard it from several different hikers about the same hostel. So, the fact is you can get it from any hostel. So just assume that they're all infected, that all the shelters are infected, and we're talking right now mainly about down south. Up north, the reports I've got of people up north are that there's no outbreaks up there. There's nothing that I'm aware of north of Damascus. Harper's Ferry is not aware of anything in their area up there. So it's mainly in the southern states, particularly North Carolina actually, and on into Tennessee. So stay out of shelters at all possible. Use your tents. If you come to a hiker feed or Trail Magic, only eat pre-packaged foods. Sodas are fine, of course. Something in an ice chest. Something that's in plastic already that they may have purchased at a store somewhere. Something that's been cooked would be fine, like hamburgers and hot dogs, pancakes from fresh ground would be great. But something that's been cooked that would have killed the virus. So all those are fine, but anything that like cookies or something that are just sitting out on a table wouldn't go for something like that. Other ways you can prevent, the biggest thing is hygiene. Wash your hands all the time. Wash them with good old soap and water. So what I use is I just take this little bit of Brahmer soap. That'll last me forever. But it will last through hiker probably a couple weeks because it's concentrated and you don't need much, but that's good soap. You can use it to clean your dishes, you can use it to clean yourself, you can use it to brush your teeth, whatever you want to use it for, but use soap often. Wash your hands often. Don't get water out of a stream that's contaminated. Obviously, if you see places where people have thrown down toilet paper or trash or something, that's a bad sign that somebody has not been using good trail etiquette, good leave no trace, obviously. But you need to be taking your waste a minimum of 200 feet, really more, away from a water source, away from a shelter. One thing about water sources is you need to look for a water source that's somewhere where there's not like hills straight up and down on both sides. So for instance, if you have stayed at Lance Creek campsite, that's kind of down in a holler, down in a hole, and everything kind of feeds down to that campsite. And the water source there is right down in kind of a hole, kind of a valley there. I mean, all water sources run through what's called a draw. But everything feeds right down into that. So you want to kind of stay away from water sources that are like that. And it's best just not to if you could all help it, go to a water source that's away from a shelter area. So camel up before you get there, and don't use the water source that's there. Use the privy if it's there, but make sure that you are cleaning yourself. You're cleaning the surfaces of the privy. The things like alcohol wipes, the hand sanitizer, those things do not kill the norovirus. The only thing that kills it is bleach wipes. If you got some Clorox bleach wipes or something, I think they make them in a little package like this, that'll do it. Another thing that you've got to be doing with your waste products is you need a trowel. This trowel weighs 0.6 of an ounce. There's no reason you need to not have this trowel in your pack. I'll leave a link to it in the description down below, but trekking poles are not made to dig in the ground. Matter of fact, they're made not to dig in the ground because they have a little basket thing on them that keeps them from sinking into the ground very far. So you need a trowel to dig a proper hole, and that cat hole needs to be 8 inches deep, and it needs to be a minimum of 200 feet away from water sources or away from the shelter. So I would even encourage you to even go further than that to dig your cat hole and to take care of your business. Your water, treating your water filter, most water filters don't filter viruses out. So not only do you need to be filtering your water, but you also need to be treating it chemically during this particular time and down in the southern areas where the outbreak is most prevalent. So I'm not a big advocator of introducing chemicals to your body, but in this case I'm not a big advocator of introducing the norovirus to your body either. So for a short period of time you might want to take some of those chemicals. And lastly, don't be shaking hands, give each other the elbow bump or the fist bump or something like that, but by all means don't be shaking hands on the trail. Don't reach into each other's food bags, don't share each other's gorp. I know we're all a wonderful hiker community and we all want to help each other out, but if you're going to give somebody some food, just give them prepackaged food, because you may have reached into your gorp bag. People say, well, I'll just pour it out in your hand. Well, but your hand's already been in that gorp bag and you don't know if you're infected yet or not. So just don't do it. Take prepackaged food, or just go hungry would be better than go somewhere with every known liquid coming out of every orifice. So hopefully folks will heed that message. I hope you don't get sick. If you're sick, then sorry to hear that, and hopefully the virus, like I said, only it'll run its course in a couple days, and then you'll be back on the trail. Even after a couple days, you may not feel like doing much on the trail, may not feel like doing the same mileage you were doing, but by all means drink you some water and stay hydrated. Folks, that's all I've got. Leave a comment or a like, give me a thumbs up if you got anything out of it. Leave a comment, let me hear from you if you've had the norovirus, got the norovirus, or if where you are, let us know where you are within a particular geographic area, so we can continue to track this norovirus, and we'll see, let others know and see how far north it goes this year. But in any case, that's all I got. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.